Welcome to my designer class. My name is Mercy and I sell Stampin' Up! Products. In today's tutorial, I'm going to be showing you how I made this beautiful card using the Let It Ride stamp set. I also used fabulous flamingos for the water and this grass thing. And I wanted to also talk a little bit about how I was inspired by this card. I did see someone else that made a card with the horse running through the water, but I didn't look at her card recently, so this should be quite a bit different than hers, and she used a different stamp set for the water, etc. The other thing that inspired me was our beautiful ribbon, and this is with Coastal Cabana and Granny Apple Green. It's reversible, so I decided that I wanted a real summery looking card, and obviously this stamp set does lend itself to like more fall colors. So I will get busy and show you what I did. So to start with is you will need a plain sheet of Whisper White cardstock, and I have this slightly smaller than 5 inches by 3 3/4. It's a little bit smaller. And the other thing is I use the rectangle shapes. So I use the, let me see if I wrote that down. Anyway, I use the largest one, which would be number 1, and then number 3. So I skipped 1, if that makes sense. So I will also have a link to all the dimensions in the description below. I'll get started here. First, we're going to go ahead and ink up our horse. And I love this horse. Oh, I forgot one thing real quick. This is very important. Whoops, you must mask. I was afraid I was going to forget that, and I did. Anyway, no big deal. There's still time. Now, of course, I've got a little bit of ink on my fingers, but I'll rub it off on my Simply Chamois, and we'll continue. There's got to be a blooper, right? All right. So hopefully that's the only blooper. Now, the other important thing is to remember to remove your mask. If you do not remove this, obviously, it's a very bad thing. It's much worse than even having the grass. All right, so I'm just going to go ahead and keep in mind where it's going to be. So I'm going to quickly remove this frame. And I wanted the horse, obviously, to be in the frame. So hopefully I'll be happy with that. And there it is. It's very pretty. I think that turned out nice and crisp. And if I want to check, I can see, you know, if the horse is going to be in it. And it's actually a little bit, I should have had it a little bit higher. So no worries. I could use the Stamparatus for this and get it perfect every time, which might not be a bad idea. I'm just going to take off a little bit. And there's still plenty of room for my frame to fit over this. So there, problem fixed. So that's a little trick. If you discover that you didn't allow enough room, this cardstock is big enough to alter a little bit. So the next thing is I have these amazing sticky notes, and they are almost completely covered with adhesive. You can buy these at like Target, any place like that. And only the bottom is not with the adhesive. And that's really nice for this sort of thing because we do not want to have very much of the non-sticky part here. We really want it to stick because I really had to come in here and cut a lot. So I will go ahead and mask my horse, and I tried to even cut smaller than it really is, the horse, and the reason is that I want masks are somewhat naturally bigger, and I do not want white space. Okay, so enough of that. Now we're going to bring in our Coastal Cabana, and we are going to stamp the water. So I am using the stamp from the Fabulous Flamingos. I keep wanting to say Flirty Flamingo because that's the color. And I, of course, can stamp right over the horse. And I want this horse to be running through the water. So I'm just going to look here because I do want kind of straight too. So I am not concerned that the horse is in the water because that's exactly what I want. I want the horse to be looking like it's running in the water. I'm just going to add a little down here, although most of this will be covered up by the frame. So there we have our horse running through the water. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in Balmy Blue, and I'm going to mask a sun. So once again, I want to bring my frame back in because I do not want this out of the frame, the sun. So what I do here, this is from my mask that I made. I take a 1-inch punch here from Stampin' Up, and I go ahead and punch it. And the reason why I have cardstock behind it is because if you don't, it kind of really messes this, it kind of bends it all because the Post-it note is actually too thin otherwise. So I just want to get in here then, and this one, it's kind of hard sometimes, so I won't mess with it. This is my previous one, but I did want to show how I did that. So here, okay, and here's going to be our sun right here. Okay, I just want it in the upper left corner, but I don't want it like covered like that. I think that would look kind of weird. So again, keep your frame always handy for that. And here's my little stamping sponge. So I have Balmy Blue, as I was saying. And what I'm going to do is come off from the page and bring in the color. And I want it fairly subtle. So, and I'm adding it in everywhere. I could do a more complex sponging scene, but I decided that I really want the focus to be on the horse and not the background so much. Ooh, kind of got the ear there. And so I opted not to do too complex of a scene, just a little bit. And having these watermark things for the water ripples, whatever you want to call them, really help make it more realistic. So I definitely want it in between the horse's legs. That was a bit of a bummer to try to do it. And the reason why I went ahead and cut off here is I do want the sky showing through. And you do not, with a light color like this, it's really not too big of an issue to have a little bit of the black covered by your blue. Okay, so that's all for that Balmy Blue. Now I'm going to bring in the Pineapple Punch and remove our mask. So here we go. Nice little circle here, and I'm just going to rub in a little bit of the Pineapple Punch, and I'm going over the whole thing because the sun doesn't just have one circle straight, it kind of rays out. So I'm taking advantage of that and it really doesn't affect the coloring too much. It looks still really good. So anyhow, now the fun part, which is to remove our horse mask, and you have this beautiful white horse, which I was actually tempted just to keep it exactly like that because isn't that gorgeous? But of course, I saw this picture in the Occasions catalog of the bay horse, and I decided to look up what colors they use. Now they use watercolor for the sample, and they used a combination of colors, but one of the colors I saw is Cajun Craze, and I thought, I'm just gonna use the Cajun Craze. So I thought it turned out really, actually amazing and beautiful. So here we go. Now I do see quite a bit of blue, no, white showing through there, so I might just hit that lightly with my sponge just to get rid of any of that. So anyhow, and this, one of the things I like doing is actually leaving a little bit of white because I don't know if you're familiar with horses too much, but I grew up, when I was growing up, we had Arabians, and a lot of them have stockings. So I want this bay horse to have stockings. And bay is like, I think was actually my favorite color. Chestnut's beautiful, but bay is just, I don't know, something about bay really captured my imagination. So I was excited that this color, Cajun Craze, really actually looks like a bay color, because bay is not like brown. It's definitely usually a warmer reddish brown. So Cajun Craze, this is the light one, definitely works incredibly well. I'm glad I looked that up because I was like, oh, I want a bay horse. So this Cajun Craze is definitely the trick. And I want this horse to have a bit of a stripe down the front of its head. That's also pretty common. I think that looks a little bit lopsided, so I'll keep working. I like my first one a little better, but anyhow, I better stop messing with it. Sometimes it gets worse if you keep messing, right? All right, so just quickly coloring this in. Arabians are so beautiful, and this one looks like an Arabian to me, but other people would probably say it's a quarter horse or maybe some other breed that they like. It really can be whatever horse you want it to be. So I'm having 3 stockings on my horse. Well, they're actually terms, and now I'm forgetting. That's crazy. What with the length. A stocking is the longest, and then they have different. Maybe someone that knows something can leave it in the comments. But anyway, what I remember is they all have different terms, the amount of white on the legs. So there we go. Now, all I'm going to do is add a few low lights, and I'm just following what Stampin' Up! Has here to add a little bit of definition, a little bit more interest. This is a really beautiful image. I'm really glad I got this set. I thought about getting it as soon as I saw it, and then I end up not getting it right away. But I'm really glad I do have it. I think it's a great scene. Okay, so now we can continue assembling the card. I hope you liked watching that. It wasn't too boring. Oh, one final thing. I used the light black to cover the hooves because hooves generally are black on any horse, I believe, but especially a bay. So we definitely want to have the hoofs not a white because that would look odd. All right, that is pretty much all. I'm just going to hit this a little bit here on the tail because I kind of see white and I don't want white. So I'm just going to try. Yeah, that looks better. I'm happier with that. All right, so let me bring in my card base. Where did I set my card base? Oh dear. Okay, so I do have some here on hand. I'm not sure what I think I'm organized and then I'm not organized. Does that make sense? All right, so we're going to go ahead and center this, and I think I'm just going to end up putting that on first and then this. Yes. And this time I think I'm going to add little dimensionals to this because I think that might look kind of cool to pop that up. But right now I'm going to go ahead and add some liquid glue. And you could, I figured in the inside of the card would be the best place to add the sentiment because I really want this whole scene kind of uninterrupted by sentiment, if that makes sense. Okay, let's hope I get this nicely centered. And I will take a look if I like it. Yes, looks great. All right, so the dimensionals. I'm wondering if I should use the big ones or the small ones. Well, maybe I'll use these halves. I like using every bit of my dimensional sheet. So at the ends, I cut them. I don't know if you can see that. So I'm utilizing everything possible. All right, almost got this. Just a couple more. Halves actually really do come in handy. I do like the mini ones too, but I think for this, the halves are the best. All right, one more, and then we're good. Okay, so I hope you've enjoyed watching this and are inspired to, if you don't have the set, to get it, and if you do have it, to create a scene like this with water. I suppose if you were good at drawing, you could actually draw in your own water waves, but I am definitely not the best at drawing, so having the stamp do the work is awesome for me. All right, so here we go. Now I'm going to add the frame, and that of course is popped up. So I decided to make this card, I wasn't quite happy with that because the horse's ears were kind of almost covered, and I definitely don't want that. Ooh, this is trickier than I thought, the dimensionals. Okay, I think I end up with pretty much the same spot as I originally, but the ears still are showing, so I'm fine with that. Okay, so the last thing is the inside of the card. So I have a panel here of 5 1/4 by 4 inches. And I will bring in Take Life by the Reins. Oh, one of the things I forgot was these branches. Oh my goodness. I completely forgot this. I have these grass. Oh my gosh. I guess blooper number 2. All right, so I'm just gonna go ahead and add it, even though technically this would be much better to do and before. So I'm just going to add 2 because I don't want to screw it up. Oh man, I can't believe I forgot that. Okay, so bring back in my paper here. It's still pretty. It had kind of messed up a little there, but I could actually come back in and try to fix that. All right, so I stamped off for this because I want it to be a little lighter. And then I am going to add Take Life by the Reins. And going to bring it back in our Coastal Cabana. This is probably one of my favorite colors of all time. And I think that's cool. And this would actually make a fun, like, birthday card, or I don't know, whatever you want it to be. So I'm going to bring in my tear and tape and add a little bit to the back here. I like to add it in 2 spots, kind of far in, just in case if I did make a mistake when I was writing the card itself, I could remove this. It would tear a little bit. But one of the tricks you can do if you ever need to remove something is take your heat gun and add some heat. It will lift the paper. And those of you who have ever left something in a hot car know that is true. So there we have our card. And here is the original. Here I have the 3 reeds of glass. But as you can see, I did that before I put the, the frame on. But I did like this popped up, the frame. I think that definitely adds something. So that was a good part. And I did feel like I was a little close to the edge here with my son. So this is better from that standpoint. Oh dear. So no 2 will be alike. That's one thing I can guarantee you. I hope you enjoyed this. Please give me a thumbs up. And I also wanted to mention a couple specials. We're still in celebration until March 31st, and Stampin' Up! Is now offering additional offerings, and this is from the annual catalog, a lot of these. And they also have the Painted Season Designer Series paper. You can get that as a $50 gift. So that is, and the other last and final thing I was going to mention was that Paper Pumpkin is having their 6th birthday, and if you'd like to subscribe, please contact me. I would love to help you with that. And you will get 2 stamp sets. And I heard this like teaser video where they said that the stamp set is actually not related to the whole kit. So that was kind of interesting, I thought. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. If you want to place an order, please email me at mewants3@gmail.com, and I'd be happy to assist you. And happy stamping.